Okay, good morning to everyone, and thank you for inviting me to this international conference. My speech will focus on the use of light to give value to those goods in the shade, or rather undervalued goods. I'm the CEO of the Studio Glow, expert in spatial augmented reality instead as video mapping, and I'm a full professor of digital application for visual art in Academy of Beauty Arts in Foggia. The forgotten heritage could become the canvas for new projection and new form of communication between the expert and the public. The use of augmented reality could be a useful way to valorize and create a correct perception of heritage. But the heritage valorization in those times is increased by the boost of the new technology applied to the cultural sector. Spatial augmented reality, instead as video mapping, is one of those techniques. And a clarification on what I mean by valorization. Valorization, in my experience, is not intended to increase its value, the value of a cultural good. The cultural good has an intrinsic value. This requires a value interpretation, and the valorization is to increase awareness and knowledge. So that means that responding to a scientific approach to communication, as well as an emotional one, also means considering London Chart, Faro Convention, and Principles of Civil. This presentation aims to debate what could be the correct use of these techniques in valorization, communication, and education through some example of video mapping realized by my multimedia studio, Studio Glow. But before any technology, it is important to talk about the cultural memory of the place, because the place don't have a position, it has a story, stories that are enclosed by the signs and the symbols on the ground, on the stones, and in the landscape. And now every object, copied of remind us, has a biography just like as a human. However, depending on how we use technology, this object can either be simply exhibited or narrated. We simplify of an exhibited object when we use the surface of this object without the purpose of telling its story, exactly as a cinema in the wrong place. This is the case, for example, of the use of spatial augmented reality instead like video mapping applied to art, when the surface is a pretext for using it as a canvas. Instead, we speak of a narrated object when we use its surface for the purpose of telling its story. This is the case of spatial augmented reality applied to cultural heritage. So we can use memory as an element to write stories related to heritage. Technology will serve as a means and not an end. And we can use multimedia dramaturgy to tell the story behind the cultural heritage. And I think that most important is whatever technology is used, it is necessary to use the fragment as a vision device. And I really like this image of Jean-Jacques Sempé because it makes it clear that the challenge of any technology, it is to reconstruct the context. So my philosophy approach of my work, I think that it's important to start for the first point to consider light as a medium, a space as a canvas, no Disneyification, and limit the wow effect. So when the SAR, spatial augmented reality, meet the cultural heritage and storytelling, the augmented heritage is born. What means augment? Augment information cultural heritage with video projection and digital storytelling. So these are some examples of my past work divided in exposed and narrated object. As for spatial augmented reality to narrate cultural object, I think this kind of technology can definitely help a lot. It is possible to use it, for example, on a scale reproduction, as we shall see the reconstruct of missing part, use restoration or digital anesthesiosis, hypothesizes an original color. The work that we will see now are all united by this type of approach. For each work, I will present a short trailer that show you the creative process. So we start with this selection of my work, and now I see you some video about the spatial augmented reality applied to cultural heritage. We start for the first, North Block number 47 of Parthenon frieze. We used a full-scale reproduction obtained with the technique of structure for motion technique and created a storytelling that told the story of this block, hypothesizing an original color based on previous scientific studies. The original block is unfortunately still present at the British Museum in London, but today is very simple scanning object to create your own museum. This is an example of the frame of my video that hypothesizes an original color of this block. So now you can start, please, Mila, the video, the short trailer of this work. Of, if you prefer, for the audience, you can use this QR code. It is. So the second work is Arenberg Mine. For this work, we started from a question: how to tell the emotion and stories of such a vast place? We decided to create a scale reproduction of the area and use it to tell through the voice of the last mineers what it was. Using a tablet, the users can choose from 8 stories of about 1 minute in length, and the installation halfway between performance and teaching is now kept in Arenberg Mining Museum. So this is, you can start the second video. Thanks. Okay, and at last, I want to speak about the Hypogeum of Cerberus. The Hypogeum is the one most of important in southern Italy because it is the only that has pictorial evidence of signs of deductios ad inferos. Unfortunately, half of it was destroyed due to construction work on the school above. What is visible today is only half of this frieze. What we did was reconstruct the missing part, and based on previous scientific studies, we create a story told from the point of view of the dead person. Virtual restoration and digital anesthesiosis were used to complete the visual information. The installation, after many years, is still visible and attracts many visitors in Canosia di Puglia. This is an example of what you see on the right, the real state of the fact and the hypothesis of the reconstruction of on the right. So you can start the last video of this work. Okay. So why I love to use this beautiful technique? I call it liquid technique because the strong point of this production corresponds to the social fruition of the group. What united all installation? The social fruition of the group, and a sense of alienation and isolation disappear completely. So my upcoming project for this year, my Studio Glow Warp is working on a multimedialization of a vast underground area in Canosa di Puglia, and in multimedialization in some rooms of Museo Archeologico Nazionale di Canosa. This museum has some beautiful and unique historical evidence fragment. How narrate the fragment and use it as a vision device? This is our new challenge. And finally, I would like to conclude as I started. So, the conclusion of my work is that anastylosis through SAR is one of the means of contemporary digital museography. Narrative dimension of the surface and supported technology correspond. The cultural heritage dialogues with technology by releasing a biography of the object. Dissemination of cultural heritage values and the new concept of cultural experience, and group social use, inclusive and not exclusive technology. So, we talk about any technology, but we must never lose sight of the cultural heritage. Digital transformation of traditional media allows for the exploration of possibilities that weren't possible before. This allows users to immerse themselves in a digital world that is ephemeral in its concept and increasingly governed by technology itself. So in the future, talking about technology will above all mean talking about both ethic and digital culture. Thanks for watching my presentation.